这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的听力水平在生活中是完全够用的。要持续提升英文，记得点击订阅按钮。我们开始吧。
Long before bright screens and slow replay, people gathered around a rough dirt track to watch horses run with everything they had. There were no clear lines painted on the ground, no digital timers counting each second, and no camera to freeze the final moment. At the end of the track, there was only a thin wire, stretched tight from one side to the other, quiet but powerful. That wire decided everything. On race day, the air felt heavy. Dust rose into the sky as hooves pounded the ground again and again. The horses ran side by side, muscles tight, breath sharp, eyes fixed ahead. The crowd leaned forward, trying to see who was faster, who would win, who would break away. But sometimes, no one could tell. Two horses would run so close that they looked like one. Their necks stretched forward at the same time. Their bodies moved like mirrors. The finish was right there, just a few steps away, but the truth was still hidden. Then came the wire. In the final second, both horses would push harder than ever before. Their legs moved faster. Their hearts beat louder. And then, one small moment decided it all. One horse would hit the wire first. The thin line would snap. The sound was quick, almost soft, but it carried weight. That snap meant victory. People started talking about these races. They needed words for that kind of moment, when everything stayed unclear until the very last second. So they said it was down to the wire. Not early. Not halfway. Not almost done. Only at the wire did the truth show. The phrase stayed, even as the world changed. Tracks became cleaner. Cameras came in. Slow motion replay made it easy to see the winner. The wire was no longer needed in the same way. But the idea behind it did not fade. It grew stronger. It moved out of the racetrack and into everyday life. A student would whisper it the night before an exam. A worker would say it when a project deadline was just hours away. A teen would feel it when the final point could decide the whole game. The phrase carried pressure, fear, hope, and one last chance. There was a boy who did not understand this at first. He heard the phrase from his grandfather, a man who had spent many years watching horse races. The old man had deep lines on his face and a quiet way of speaking, but when he talked about races, his eyes lit up. One evening, while the sun was going down, the grandfather said, "The most honest moment is always down to the wire." The boy asked what that meant. The old man smiled and said, "It is the moment when you cannot hide. No time left. No space left. Only what you do right now." The boy nodded, but the words did not stay with him. Life felt wide and open. There was always more time, more chances. More days ahead. Until one day, there were not. Years passed, and the boy grew older. School became harder. Choices became heavier. One year, he faced an exam that could change his future. It was not just another test. It felt like a gate. Pass, and one path would open. Fail, and another path would close. He told himself he had time. Days went by. Then weeks. He kept waiting for the right moment to begin. But the right moment never came. Time moved quietly, and before he noticed, it was almost gone. The night before the exam, he sat alone at his desk. The room was silent except for the ticking clock. Each sound felt louder than the last. His books were open, but the pages looked strange, like they did not belong to him. His chest felt tight. His hands were cold. He looked at the clock again. Too late, he thought. A heavy feeling came over him. It told him to stop, to give up, to accept failure before it even arrived. It whispered that nothing he did now would matter. Then, in that quiet moment, he remembered the wire. Not just the word, but the image. The thin line at the end of the track. The horses running with everything they had. The final push. The snap. He remembered what his grandfather said. No time left. No space left. Only what you do right now. He sat still for a moment. Then he reached for his book again. He started small. One page. Then another. He did not think about the whole exam anymore. He only thought about the next step. The next line. The next answer. Hours passed. His eyes burned. His back ached. His mind felt slow, but he kept going. Every time he wanted to stop, he saw that wire again. Not far away. Right in front of him. He told himself, "Run." The night grew deeper. The world outside went quiet. But inside that small room, something changed. Fear slowly turned into focus. Doubt turned into action. By the time the sun began to rise, he was still there. Tired, but not broken. The next day, he walked into the exam room. Other students looked calm, or at least they tried to look calm. He did not feel calm. But he felt ready to try. And that was enough. The test began. Some questions were easy. Others felt impossible. His mind slowed at times. Panic tried to return. But each time, he pushed forward, just like those horses near the finish. Step by step. line by line, second by second. When the time ended, he put down his pen. He did not know if he had won or lost. Days later, the results came. He passed. Not at the top. Not with a perfect score. But he crossed the line. Down to the wire. Years later, he stood where his grandfather once stood. Older now. Wiser. He told the same story to someone younger. He said, "Most people think the race is decided early. They think if they fall behind, it is over. But they forget about the wire." He paused, then added, "The wire is where truth lives. It is where effort shows. It is where the last bit of strength matters more than all the easy moments before." This phrase is no longer about horses. It is about late nights, hard choices, and the moments when quitting feels easier than trying. It is about that narrow space between failure and one more step. Everyone faces a wire at some point. A test. A deadline. A dream that feels like it is slipping away. In those moments, the question is simple. Do you stop, or do you run? Because sometimes, the race is not lost. It is just waiting. Waiting for you at the wire. So think about your life right now. Is there something you are close to giving up on, something you think is already too late? Look again. You might be closer than you think. And the next step you take might be the one that breaks the wire. Tell me, when was the last time your life went down to the wire?
能以非母语者的身份专注学习到现在，这本身就是很棒的进步。真诚感谢你的观看。如果你觉得本期内容实用，点赞或留言让我知道你的想法，这对我持续创作非常重要。我们下期见。